Hi everyone, welcome to this live session today. My name is Zezeran, and we're going to be giving you the base fundamental knowledge that you need to practice the skill of leadership and giving you a framework to help you step through your own leadership challenges. My name is Zezeran. I'm an Australian. I'm an instructor with Combat Ready for 2 years now. Before that, I was the founder of Comedy Estonia. We introduced the art form of stand-up comedy to the country of Estonia. In 2010, there was no stand-up at all. We came together as a group. We were standing on coffee tables, hustling, doing whatever we could. And we eventually grew into a nationally touring production company. We created national stars. We established the art form of stand-up in the country. It's a thing. And we're having international impact. Our alumni are out in the world doing amazing things. I'm very proud of that effort that we did. We came together united around one big goal. I'm giving my reflections on a lot of that experience, and I'm very proud to be a combat-ready instructor these days, providing a different perspective that these laws, they're not all about combat. They apply to business, to life, to everywhere. I want to start by defining what we think leadership is. Leadership isn't the boss, it's not the dictator, it's not the CEO, it's not the manager who tells you what to do. It's not orders, and it's not even orders in the military. That's a bit of the secret. Leadership is influence, and that means everyone is a leader. You influence everyone around you. I can influence my subordinates, I can influence my teammates, I can influence my boss and what happens at the upper edges. So in every capacity, you're a leader. I had a great example. Last week, I was giving a talk at the Apple store in Riga, the Ideal store. And we had such a good example right in front of us. They've got retail workers, frontline workers. Okay, they don't have subordinates, so how are they a leader? And we saw right in front of us, there was a retail staff member helping a customer. They are leading the customer, making the customer's problem their problem, and then solving that challenge together. It's such a good example of leadership at all levels. So it's not only leadership in the business, leadership at home. If you're a parent, clearly that's a form of leadership. But there's also a way children can influence the parents too. You're a leader in your community, and a real subtle and deep level of this material is we are leading ourselves. We are looking to provide positive influence in every aspect of our life. Leadership is all around us. Every time we interact with another human being, that's leadership. So going by that definition, we think every single problem you face is a leadership problem. It's all about how do I interact, how do I influence other human beings. Even a really technical task, you're an engineering company, you're solving problems. Who solves those problems? People do. The interactions between those people. So this framework can help you in many areas of your life. And the good part of leadership being everywhere is that leadership is a skill that can be learnt. So people sometimes think that leadership is, he talks loud, or they run around and project, and that's what makes a good leader, bossing people around. Leadership is just a skill, and that skill can be learnt. So like any skill, you've got to learn the theory, you got to go do some practice. Then you need a bit of feedback to see how you went on that practice. Then you try again. That's the loop if you're learning a musical instrument. That's the loop if you are learning leadership. In this session today, we're going to give you the theory. We think theory should really be the smallest part of learning. It's all about demonstration. It's all about practically getting out there and doing it. I want to give you some of the theory today so you can go and implement and then maybe even assess yourself and then get better over time. Before I go to the next stage, Combat Ready, our partners in America, Echelon Front, they are founded by former Special Forces operators. Here in Estonia, Special Forces, Navy SEALs in America. I am not a Navy SEAL. I've never served in the military. I made my name telling jokes on stage to people. And you might even argue not even that great jokes to begin with, but we had a good time. So how do I deal with this topic of the military? because it's not about the military. The lessons came from there, and I'll explain a little bit in the moment, but they apply to all sorts of areas. But there's a greater issue there of like, how do I navigate every day knowing my colleagues are former special forces operators, they've been to war, they've done amazing feats that I can never hope to achieve. And it took me quite a while to learn how to be and how to sit when you're having that imposter syndrome. I don't think like I belong here. And the way that I eventually addressed it, I wouldn't say I've completely overcome it, is that I try every day to help the team. So I put winning with the team first. What can I do to help others and help the rest of the team? If you've got that helpful teammate, nobody has a problem with that. When you see that that other person is helping, giving, trying, doesn't matter if they're new or old or where they're coming from, you respect that. So I'm trying my hardest to support the team, and that's how I internally deal with my imposter syndrome. And I think that for me, I'm not the most experienced person. There are many people have gone to war. People have led multi-million-dollar, multinational companies. Maybe you're in that field right now. And I've been leading that team in Comedy Estonia for over 10 years. Maybe you haven't been leading a team for 10 years. But you've definitely had experience in a different field to me. So my intent today is just to communicate these ideas to you, ask you a couple of questions, and get you to think about these ideas through your own experience. I don't want to come in here saying I know it all. This session is a little bit of how to think, not what to think. This is the patterns, the templates, the algorithms that we use to find our way through problems. And I think finding that algorithm is better than being told a solution. So maybe you even want to right now, if this is the classroom, I would be asking you to write down the goals for your training. We always start with goals. And when I'm thinking of goals, I also think of anti-goals, which is what do you not want to be? Sometimes we don't know what we want to be as a leader. We haven't really had experience to the skills of leadership, but we've had bad leaders. We've had leaders who have made us feel bad or not inspired or not motivated or downright crummy. So take a moment. You could pause the video even if it's not the live stream straight up and ask yourself, who do you want to be as a leader? And maybe who do you not want to be as a leader? Because as we go through this material, this might help you identify, if I use more decentralized command, I'm going to be less of a micromanager. Got it. Something like that is what we're going for. If you want to think about that, to only take about 2 minutes, pause it now. The root of this material comes from two former Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. They were in the Battle of Ramadi over in Iraq, and they had unbelievable experiences. They were in the Battle of Ramadi, which was an unwinnable situation, highly entrenched town. Local people didn't want them there, and they've got to get all the bad guys and the terrorists out and stabilize, provide safety to that area. And it was through the lessons, through what they learned that relationships matter. That if they built relationships with the local people, if they built relationships across the different departments of the military. Military is not one thing, as I've come to understand. There's the Army, there's the Navy, there's the Special Forces. Just like departments in your organization, they don't always work well together. Sound familiar? They learned by building relationships, coming up with a simple plan that everybody understood, working on the priorities, and then empowering everyone else to do their part of the job. They were able to overcome an unwinnable mission. When Jocko and Leif came home from Iraq, they started training the next generation of Navy SEALs. They saw that it was working. It was helping these young leaders to navigate difficult problems. Finally, when the two of them left the service, they wrote a book called Extreme Ownership. It became a New York Times bestseller, #1, and is how I came across this material. It was about 6 years ago. I was running Comedy Estonia. I was leading a group of crazy comedians, being all artistic, doing their things, but making impact, and also leading a production company who puts on the shows for those comedians. And I was drowning in the work. Like many of you, you get put into a leadership position, whether you ask for it or not. and you have to sink or swim. And okay, some inbuilt natural skill at leadership, sure, but that soon comes to an end when I haven't got formal training in it. I listened to a few of the Jocko podcasts. I got put onto those. I found they had really actionable ideas. I read the book, Extreme Ownership, and it had definite things that I could take away. I'm a little bit allergic to like business talk. You go to any business festival and there's synergies and there's reports and how we're empowering. And I really, when someone starts talking in that corporate speak, really closes my ears, unfortunately, sometimes. And when Jocko expressed it through the military examples, it became very black and white for me. So maybe you're someone who's very far away from the military, as am I. It helped. It made it black and white. I got the example and I was able to turn around and apply that to my group of comedians. And lo and behold, it started to work. Give responsibility. Am I coming up with a simple plan that everybody understands? Have I built the best relationship with the guys? If there's something up, I got to deal with that. This is what helped me, and this led me down this path to where I am today, teaching this to you, teaching this to organizations, to groups, to teams, to help them all become better leaders. On my Combat Ready team, I am fortunate to be working with amazing warriors. They've served in all the different levels of the Estonian military here in the Republic of Estonia and foreign missions. And our special forces was founded by American special forces back in the day, as I've understood the history now. And we're very happy that from the start of the year, we are now the official partners of Echelon Front, of Jocko and Leif, their consulting company. We are their official partners in Northern Europe and Eastern Europe. Very happy about that. We're happy to be representing them here to continue on that partnership. In my talk, I don't lean too heavily on the military examples because they're not my story, but I've learned from some of them that are so powerful that have helped me that I want to communicate them back to you. And one question that really hit me the first time I saw it was asking yourself, what do you think when you hear the term combat environment, combat war? What does it sound to you? And you can even take a moment to think of the connotations of what combat environment is. I can come up with some. It sounds like everything's going crazy. Sounds like we've got lack of resources. Sounds like extremely high stress. Lack of information, stuff just happening, the fog of war, we don't know what's going on. Dangerous, deadly, these sort of things. Now I want to ask you, what's the difference in your world? Well, okay, you're not being shot. I understand that. Yes, typically not happening. But let's say, instead of saying, I'm not going to get shot, let's say high consequence. Is there high consequence in your field if something doesn't happen? Someone's health is going to be in danger. Something to do with the company, maybe. We got big deals. If they go bad, we could lose a lot of customers. That's a crisis situation for the company. But those other things, they apply too. Fast changes, lack of information, high stress. Sounds like a lot of people's jobs. So yes, the combat environment is different, but a lot of the ideas are there. The thing with combat is it's just very quickly. You get shot, you know straight away. And actually, that's one thing combat shares with stand-up comedy, that the feedback loop is very fast. If you're a stand-up comedian, you get brutally judged once every 60 seconds when you're on stage, every night, ideally night after night. You are getting a very immediate feedback loop. And you're very clear how you're doing, how you're being rated right now. Now, that's maybe a difference in your workplace. You could go a month, 3 months, 6 months without a performance review for you to know how you're doing. But so many of the things are the same. All right, let's get into it. We are going to be talking about the 4 laws of combat that help us learn the skill of leadership. And then we're going to look at what we call the mindsets to victory. These are what we need to keep in mind to help us implement the 4 laws. The mindsets are our natural human tendencies that tend to take us in the opposite direction of what we should be doing. None of this stuff is revolutionary. None of this stuff is like, wow, Lewis, you've done years of PhD research to work out this new idea. They're all intuitive ideas. Simple, but not easy. The first law is going to be basically build relationships with the people. Well, of course. Thanks, Lewis, for telling me that I need to build better relationships. Okay. But have we actually done that? Are we actually doing that day to day? Simple, but not easy to implement. Let's start with the first one, cover and move. The very first law of combat is called cover and move, and it means teamwork, but a deep level of teamwork. You need to have good relationships with the people on your team and those around you. Because if you don't have good relationships, you can't do anything. You can't build a plan. You can't work out. You certainly can't empower them if you're not getting along. And that applies for individuals and also across departments. Does your organization have some silos? One department's not working very well with the other department. We're all on the same team. We've all got one mission. What we want to do is every day support the team. Not just do my job and what I'm doing here. I want to look up and out and see how I can support the team, how I can support everything else that's happening in our organization. I want to give that support first. Now, eventually, someone's going to want to support me back, which is very good. That's how we build a culture, but that's not the intent. I want the team to win. Because if the team wins, then I win. This is great. And if part of the team fails, everyone fails. If you've got a company with a production department and a sales department, if the production department can't implement those products, the whole team is going to fail. If sales says, well, it's not our fault, production team didn't produce the widgets, that's fine, but still the company goes under because we didn't produce the order. We need to look how we can support our teammates, and the tool we use, build relationships. Have I established good relationships? Have I helped my teammates? This could be as simple as just stepping up and having a conversation. Hey, how you doing today? Now we want to go a little further. Hey, how you doing? I see you working on the project for the new client. Can I help you with that? I've got a little bit of experience. How can I support you today? Offer your support. Don't look for it to come back to you, or intent has a smell. Help your colleagues, because that's going to help the team. We want to do it because relationships are like engine oil. Okay, you got the oil in the engine. So a bunch of stuff can go wrong in an engine and it's fine. Spark plugs fail, fuel runs out, no problems. Just put some more fuel back in, we're good to go. It's normal. But when oil runs out, the whole engine seizes up. It's often permanent damage. That's what relationships are like. Don't let your relationships get so damaged that you can't bring it back. I think relationships are the difference between winning and losing teams. They make the difference. In Comedy Estonia, we united a group of crazy stand-up comedians who are not known for working together as a group. There's a reason why they stand individually on a stage. There's that mindset. But we developed relationship to work together towards one united goal, supporting each other. It was the power of those relationships which built the culture of stand-up comedy in Estonia. It was the first and most vital step. Once we're building relationships, we want to come up with a simple, clear, and concise plan. If people don't know what the mission is, what the goal is, what the end state is, they can't complete that mission. How do we know when the project's over? Have you asked yourself that? I'm working on that project. How do I know it's done? How do I know what winning looks like? What's a successful ending of the project is another way to put at it. We need to talk in very simple terms so everyone understands. Because if people don't understand the mission, they can't execute that mission properly. I'm always looking to speak in the most simple terms to make sure everyone understands. And it's hard because I think complex plans are natural. We've got complex problems. There's a lot going on. Business life, personal life, there's a lot of things there. And we can kind of fool ourselves into thinking, well, it's a complex problem. I need a complex solution. Usually the solutions are the fundamentals done really well. If I have a complex plan, that's fine, but then I've got multiple plans going. Then one thing goes wrong, two things go wrong, Murphy's Law kicks in, everything goes wrong. By having a simple plan, you give yourself the best possible chance of navigating through that stress point. By having a simple plan, you set yourself up for getting through the hard times because we understand what needs to happen. The whole terminology of this, we're looking for alignment. I want to speak clearly to my team so they understand what they need to do. I speak clear to my colleagues, speak clearly to my boss. I'm going to have alignment with my colleagues, alignment with my boss. We're going to have alignment across the whole organization when I try to speak more clearly so everyone understands me. Now, the way that we can ensure clear communication is a tool called the readback, and it's the simplest thing. You're going to love it. It's one of the first things that people take away from this course and one of the first things you can implement. The readback just means when I hear some information, I'm going to repeat it back in my own words so they understood that I got it. We see this in life. Think about when you're at the restaurant and you're all sitting down, the whole team for dinner with the whole family, and the server comes around, you all give your order, and then finally the server says, right, you wanted the chicken, you wanted the burger, you wanted the medium rare. Is that correct? And you're like, dang, that person remembered it all. Very good. You've got alignment now between you and the server. And in fact, the server can now go and give it to the chef, and that gives us the best possible chance of having alignment with the chef, that the chef's idea of the meal is aligned with our idea of the meal. That's what we're trying to get through. So in your workplace, when we're trying to hook up a meeting, you've done that. You send 1,000 Slack messages this Thursday, Friday, this room, that time. I always send one final message. Meeting confirmed, Thursday, 29th of August, 4 p.m., boardroom, main office. See you there. I'll probably then send a meeting invite too. So that final email is a form of readback. I always want to be reconfirming what I heard. It's super powerful. My boss calls me up. Hey, Lewis, let's talk for 15 minutes. Right on. I listen to him talk, and then I say, okay, boss, if I understood, you were concerned about the European strategy, marketing, and our onboarding procedures. Is this what you said? He goes, yeah, Lewis, you heard it all. Good. It's a simple tool. And once we get this culture of two-way communication, we're really sure the other person's understood. So if you're a leader and you want to read back for your team, just make sure that you've made it very clear that I want you to give me a read back because I want to ensure that I've been clear enough. This is not a pop quiz for your team. This is not a stressful point. I'm not putting you on the spot. I just want to know that I have been clear enough in my communication. And if I haven't, it's on me to communicate more clearly. Use a read back. Create two-way communication. The fourth law of combat, prioritize and execute. Once we've got good relationships, once we've got the plan, we need to find the highest priority task and then do it. It sounds so straightforward, but it's so hard for most of us. We want to find the highest priority task and then do it. And ideally, I want to only be doing one task at a time. As humans, we do not multitask as good as we think we do. We want to focus our resources on solving the main problem, and then as much as possible, and then move on to the next problem. Your value as a knowledge worker, I presume you're a knowledge worker, you might not be, but if you're a knowledge worker, your value is your ability to sit and focus on hard problems and come up with a creative solution. Your value is not to sit on Slack all day, this and that, and fighting fires and doing small things. It's to find the most difficult problem and then solve that issue. Now, the flip side of this is we don't want to get in tunnel vision either. So I have a background in computer science. I still love a bit of coding. You give me a coding job and I am not going to look up from this desk for 48 hours. I will just get hyper-focused and totally entrenched in that coding challenge. Now, that also isn't so good either. I am solving the highest priority problem, but I still got to make sure what's happening around me. My special forces buddies, they told me when there were snipers out in the field, right? And the snipers, you've seen the movies, the snipers looking down the barrel of the gun all the time. Well, they're looking down this bit. That's all you're seeing. So they always have some sort of buddy, colleague, compatriot next to them to make sure that someone's not sneaking up from behind, looking to the sides. They're ensuring that they're also seeing the bigger picture. So we got to find that balance. That's what we're trying to do. And the way that we do that is we take a step back, we're going to breathe, we're going to relax, and we're just going to make a decision. We want to get the high ground. I want to find a way to see the bigger picture, and that is going to help me see the priority. The way we do this is through detachment. I can't tell you what your highest priority is. You can work that out. But I can know that the way you determine that is through the habit of detachment, by finding techniques and tactics that you can relax, see the bigger picture, chill out a little bit, get some perspective, calm the emotions down, and then assess the situation and make a decision. That is how you are going to find the highest priority. This could be on a day-to-day. It could be just going outside and having 5 minutes of fresh air. You got 1 hour to do a job, go take 5 minutes, you still got 55 minutes. It could be in the workplace, having that trusted colleague. You go bounce some ideas off, they give you a detached perspective. You're like, I didn't think of that one. How can I relax, maybe physically move myself out of this space, get outside? I got a little doggy these days, and my little doggy needs to go outside and do his business every 2 or 3 hours. This has changed my work. It now forces me to go outside every 2 hours or so. I walk around the block, I get some fresh air, a little bit of sunshine. It changes the way I look at things. And I didn't even mean for that to happen. How can you detach from the situation to get the bigger picture? And then you've just got to make the best decision you can and go for it. To follow up on the talk about prioritize and execute, your job as a leader is to think strategic. Okay, your team is there to do the job. Your job is to look up and out, look at the bigger picture, because you're covering for them. I don't want to always be down in the weeds with my team. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes I've got to mentor, help, talk with them, guide them through things. That's absolutely the job of the leader. But I want to make sure that I'm not spending all my time down with the team implementing. My value is to think strategically, look up and out. So I'm going to be able to navigate us to the next, navigate us through the web of bureaucracy in the company, get the resources that my team needs to implement. Your job as a leader is to look up and out. Oh, and by the way, this is my little doggy here. His name is Venom. He's a big tough guy, and he needs to go outside all the time. So thank you for helping me with my prioritize and execute. He's not very happy because he was sleeping on the floor, and now I brought him up here to be the superstar that he is. Every day, find small ways for you to implement the habit of detachment. The final law of combat is decentralized command. It means to empower your team. Everyone leads. I want people to be making decisions as close to the front line as possible. Some ways to think about it. Okay, I want my team to act as if I wasn't there. Hey, I'm not around. Can you make the choice yourself? The key is I want them to act like that even when I am there. If you ever thought, my boss is a micromanager, that really frustrates me. Decentralized command is the opposite of micromanagement. I am going to empower my team to lead. And that involves giving permission. So sometimes at Combat Ready, we get a company calls us in, hey guys, we need you to help us with our team. They're not taking responsibility or ownership. Can you help our staff take ownership and responsibility? And we're like, yes, we can. And guess which department we have to talk to first? Senior leadership. This responsibility needs to be given, and then your subordinates can take it. I want my team to be able to solve challenges on their own. I don't want to become the easy button. Hey boss, what do I do now? I want them to work it out on their own, because that's how people learn. If you're doing everything for your team, they're not learning. I mean, like, what if they screw up? What if they mess up? What if they do something? Yes, that's a risk. Your job as a leader is to put the guardrails of failure in place, that your team can mess up a little bit, but not too much. Because they got to mess up a bit so they learn. But clearly, they can't mess up so bad that they sink the project, use all the budget. And this right here is the true dichotomy of leadership, I think. I need to mentor and support my team enough that they need it, but not too much that I'm in their faces every day. You have to find that balance. How much am I talking with them? How much am I helping with them? Versus how much am I standing back and letting them execute? Because I want them to learn. I want them to be more independent, so I have more time to go and help the rest of the team. The way that we enable this decentralized command, this empowerment, explain the why. Tell your team more about why they're doing this. Give them bigger context, more background, more information. Here's how it fits into the company's policy. Here's how it's going to help you. Here's how this plays a crucial. Here's the other things that it's going to affect. The more you can tell them, don't just give them a command, go do it. The more big picture you can give them, the more your team will understand their decision space. That is the bits where I can't make a decision and the bits where I got to escalate it to the boss. Always give your team as much context and information, and then they will be able to make their own decisions. Decentralized command is what we're trying to achieve, but we can only achieve it if we've got good relationships, we all understand the plan, we're working on the highest priority. Now, team, go and execute on that plan. If there are issues that you think you can't come across, escalate them to me, and I'm going to help guide you so you can keep working on your own. The intent of decentralized command is that you support your team rather than being a detailed conductor. Remember that your job is to think strategically. I want to empower my team to do the job, make decisions on their own, and that's going to give me the time. When I win time as a leader, I then have more time to support my team. If I'm not doing the job for them, solving all their problems, I can think strategically and help them. I can mentor them. I can help them grow. I can do everything that I need to do to support the team. Some quick revision. The first law of combat was cover and move. It means teamwork. And the way that we do that is we build relationships. I'm going to look how I can support the team. Second up is simple. Everyone understands the mission. The way we do that, the read back, to ensure two-way communication, to know that we've been understood. Third, prioritize and execute. Find the most important task and then work on that. The way that we find that most important task, detachment. Whatever that means in your world. Take a step back, breathe, get the bigger picture, make a decision. Finally, we want decentralized command. It means empowering the team, letting them lead, letting them make decisions. The way I do that, explain the why. More big picture, more context, more background information. They will understand where their work fits into the greater plan of the team and the company. So there are 4 laws. That's how these are the steps you can use. You got leadership problems? Look at step 1. Have I built relationships? Are we talking? Got simple communication? Step through these is the way you're going to solve problems. Next up, we want to look at the mindsets for victory. The mindsets represent our human tendencies that stop us implementing the 4 laws. So these are just the natural ways that human beings are. I have them. We all have them. And we want to identify them, identify our triggers so we can overcome and not let them get in the way of us being a great leader. The first mindset for victory, discipline equals freedom. It sounds intense. What it actually means is you need to put the work in today to make for a better tomorrow. You want to be financially secure for you and your family? Well, then you've got to save today. You've got to work today. You've got to go to work, save your money, not overspend. So in the next week, month, year, 10 years, You're going to have financial freedom. You want to have a healthy body. You want to still be good. Pick up your kids. You still want to be able to jog and be an active person when you're a little older. You got to do the work now. You got to go to the gym today. You've got to be consistent. Self-discipline. You need to put in the work now to help tomorrow. Don't give up. Keep going. Have that self-discipline. And a different angle on discipline equals freedom means procedures. You might know them as standard operating procedures. And we can have a standard operating procedure for my personal life and for the work. So in the work, maybe you understood this is what we always do when a customer comes or when the customer has a problem or an order comes in. I want to make sure there's a procedure for the things that we do so we're not reinventing the wheel for every customer that comes in. With Comedy Estonia, we're going to different theaters every night, different theater in a different city. I don't need to reinvent that process of us setting up the theater, the lights, the sound, the tickets, the whole thing every night. We've got a procedure. We write it down. It's not limiting because it's handling all the baseline stuff. So I'm now free to not worry about that anymore. And I can actually go and implement on some big picture stuff, build relationships with the venue manager, talk to our customers, understand what's going on there. On a day-to-day level, standard operating procedure is I wake up and I go to the gym. That's what I do. That's how it goes. There's no arguing. You can have a procedure for yourself too. Having daily discipline for yourself will help you in the long run. Default aggressive. Don't misinterpret what this says. Default aggressive means I am going to aggressively solve problems. I'm going to aggressively get after it and solve it. Doesn't mean be aggressive to people. Doesn't mean yell at people. That's not what it's about. That would violate the first law of building relationships. You can think of it as being proactive. Is that what, if that helps you understand? Proactive. Default aggressive. I'm going to get after it. Problems don't solve themselves. Sometimes we've got to wait, yes, and see how, but usually you got to make something happen. That could be a problem. That could also be an opportunity in life. I do this a lot. I get that email that comes in my inbox and I don't read it for like 2 days because I think it's going to be really hard and I'm going to have to think and it's going to hurt my brain. And then I read the email and I'm like, that was really easy. I should have just responded to that 2 days ago. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, said that we suffer more in imagination than reality. I definitely suffer more in my mind than, it's definitely harder to think about writing that email than it is to actually do it. So sometimes we're hesitant because we want more information. We want to get it. Yeah, no, I need to see how it plays out first. We'll never have perfect information about the business deal, about how the project's going, about the marketplace, about the economy, about the world. We've got to just get in there. But we're trying to also not jump 2 legs in, all in to a certain job. We want to, how can I take a few steps forward, mitigate risk, and then evaluate how things are going, and then take another step forward? What's the smallest step forward I can possibly take? That one really helped me when I first heard Jocko talk about this. What's the smallest step forward that you can take when I was like really stuck in my brain and having that, where you can't do anything? And I heard a really good example from a friend of mine. He's a firefighter and their job is to go into dangerous burning houses. They gotta do it. There's no avoiding the danger. The way they mitigate risk when they're running into a burning house is they have a big stick, right? A big pole. And they run into the house, and the biggest problem is it could collapse on you at any moment. So they run in with the pole, bunk, bunk. Oh, roof is still good. I'll take 2 more steps forward. Right, bunk, bunk. Roof is still solid. I'll take 2 more steps forward. And it's such a good metaphor for taking a few steps forward in our life and then is this still a good thing? Is it still safe? Should I still be doing it? How can I mitigate risk but still move forward? Because our natural tendency is to sit back, delay action, not make something happen. Innovate and adapt. We often think, well, it worked in the past. It was good before. What worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. Often when companies are going through startups to larger and larger, what worked to get you from 0 to $1 million of turnover in a year may not work to get you from $1 million to the 10 million. What got us here may not work tomorrow. We need to keep changing. The battlefield is changing. The market is changing. If you don't change, your enemy is changing. Your competitors are changing. Even inside of your organization, your people are changing. And if you're going to be stuck in the mud, you're going to be left behind. We need to find and adapt to those situations. And it sounds obvious, but how often have you said, no, I'm good. I'll just keep trying this way. We've got to find our internal triggers and listen to those internal triggers so I can identify when I'm maybe sticking to the old ways too much. I had an example of this in my production company a few years ago. I put in a new CEO because I wanted to have a more strategic view. And we were having a regular meeting and I said, hey, I can see sometimes during the year we have a bit of a cash flow problem. It's good sometimes and not so good other times. How come that happens? And it explained that, well, we do a job, but we've got to pay the comedians right away. And I said, oh, that's what, okay, before we get the money. Right. So why can't we just pay the comedians later? And they're like, well, Lewis, that's what the comedians expect. And besides, that's the way you always did it. And I was, that's the way you always did it. And I knew at that stage, of course, I am the owner of this problem. I did not communicate strongly enough that what got us here won't change, that we need to not assume what I did was the right thing. So that's my internal trigger. If that's the way we've always done it, if that's the way Lewis did it, that's my trigger to just reevaluate that situation. And as a leader, when you set the example, when you set the standard, you are creating that culture. Other people, your team, your boss, your colleagues will see that you are doing your best to innovate. That will give them comfort. That will think, well, maybe give them confidence. They can also innovate, change, and adapt. That's how you create that culture in your organization. The next mindset is humility. If we can't check our ego, we are not able to evolve and improve. You're not going to be able to adapt. You're not going to be able to respect your competition. You're going to get complacent. You're not going to be able to self-assess. We need to exercise the practice of humility, keeping our ego in check. Out of control egos are the number one cause of problems in teams. Humility is the most important skill that you can have. It doesn't mean be a pushover. It doesn't mean be complacent. It doesn't mean like, oh, I'll let anything happen. I'm still going to stick to my ideas, but I'm going to present them in a humble manner. I'm going to respect the team, the boss, the organization. Maybe my boss isn't an idiot. Maybe they're in that position because they had for a reason, and I need to find that way to respect them. You got a bad relationship. You've got to find a way to respect that person. Otherwise, you won't be able to build a relationship. We talked about cover and move, build relationships. Respect is at the core of building a relationship. If I don't respect someone, we're really not going to be able to build a relationship very well. So if you can't build a relationship, you can't do the rest of the 4 laws. Humility is at the root of all of this. We don't want to just listen to our ego. Our ego is telling us sweet lies. It's telling us, oh, we're good, or we know, oh, I used to do that job, so I know. Don't worry about it. They're a bit dumb. We've got to not listen to the sweet lies that our ego is telling us. Keep your ego in check. Practice humility. And this is the most important skill that you can have as a leader. The final mindset, extreme ownership. It's the name of the book. It's the big catchphrase that everybody's into. It sounds intense. Extreme ownership. What does this mean? It means I'm not going to blame anyone else. I'm not going to look for excuses. I'm not going to point the finger. I want to take ownership and responsibility for everything in my world. And you can start just by not blaming others. Just find a solution. Find how you can help and affect the situation. Has blaming ever helped you? Has pointing the finger and saying it's that person's fault, it's that department, has that ever had a really good outcome? Oh yeah, I mean, maybe someone puts their ego in check and says, Lewis, you're right. Thank you. I can see that's my fault. Thank you for pointing that out. Look, maybe, but I'm not so sure that's the common scenario. Maybe if we've got a great, solid relationship, I can be straight with that person. Usually, and I would say all the time, I want to find the thing that I can do to affect the situation and not point fingers and blame. And this is an extremely hard topic. It's something that I grapple with every single day. Don't think like you just get it and then you're the perfect person. So what about an example? We're in a company and we've had to give the big presentation to get the customer, the client, the pitch, and it went bad. It went real bad and we did not get the client. And it was Barry. Barry gave the presentation. Sales guy Barry. Well, Barry gave a real stinker of a presentation. What are we supposed to do? Barry gave the presentation. How am I? He did it. It was Barry. Instead of blaming Barry, what you can do is look to see how you could have affected the situation, how you could have helped. So why didn't I reach out to Barry? Hey, Barry, we got that big presentation coming up. You're a busy guy. Look, I've done some presentation work before. Can I help you? You want to have a coach? We'll sit down, you give it to me, do a few practice sessions. Did I offer that support? Or maybe, hey, Barry, I can see that you're a really busy guy. It's really important. How about I take those projects off your plate so you are more free to devote your time to doing a great presentation? There are two ways that I could have supported the team. That's my fault now because I didn't do those. I want to find the way that it's my fault. And that, I understand, is an extremely hard one to get your head around. It's not my fault. It's theirs. They didn't do it. It's their team. They're slow. They didn't. I want to turn it around and find how it's my fault. Because when it's my fault, I then have the power to fix that fault. If I say it's Barry, what an idiot. Didn't do it. His fault. I'm giving Barry all the power. Now, I don't know, somehow Barry's got to fix it. And he probably doesn't feel real great that the whole company has pointed fingers at him. Do we think Barry is motivated, ready to go, fired up? Maybe, maybe not. Instead, if I say, Barry, I see how I could have helped you. I'm sorry I didn't support you more. Let's do some practice sessions for the next one. I'm going to take that work. When I take responsibility, when I say what I could have done, it lightens the load on the rest of the team. There's a lot of questions. We could really go deep here. Doesn't that mean that if I take responsibility for everything, then everyone's going to give me all the bad things? I'm going to get everything and then I'm going to be doing everything. It doesn't actually usually happen like that. Well, now I have to run around and do everything myself. No, that's not also it. Extreme ownership exists to support the 4 laws of combat. Remember that? Cover and move, simple, prioritize and execute, and decentralized command. I'm going to use extreme ownership to help me do the 4 laws better. For example, which colleague would you rather have a good relationship with? The one who's like, when you say, hey, I need some help, it's Friday afternoon. The one who says, not my job description. That's not my wheelhouse. I got to go home. See you later. It's Friday. I'm going to the pub. Or the colleague who says, yeah, I can see how I didn't support you on that. I can see how I didn't give you enough support, and that has led you to be in this situation. I'm going to stay behind and help you. Which colleague would you rather have and help and win with the team? How about simple and prioritize and execute? Let's say your boss comes up with the plan, and your boss likes to talk, and your boss likes to come up with a complicated plan. They hand down the 2 stone tablets from the mountain. Here is the project you must be doing. And it's a pretty complicated plan, and we're not quite sure how to start with this. How can I take ownership of my boss's plan? It's not my plan. Boss gave it to me. What do I do? When we're talking about in the team, I can take the boss's plan. I can try and assume that he has good intent. I'm going to simplify that plan. I'm going to write it out in a more simple, clear, and concise manner. I'm also going to identify what I think are our top priorities and say, hey, team, this is what the boss said. This is my interpretation of the plan. Do you agree? And do you understand this? Someone give me a read back. So I've taken ownership over my boss's plan by simplifying it and coming up with the highest priorities myself. Finally, decentralized command. I want to empower the team. Which CEO would you rather work for? Say it's the company, Barry gave the presentation, we lost the customer, things are not good. Do you want to work for the CEO that says, yep, yeah, it was Barry's fault. It was also marketing's fault. They did a terrible job. Definitely the whole sales team. Those departments are at fault. Or do I want to work for the CEO that says, we lost that case and it's my fault. I can see I did not set the highest priority. I gave you guys too much work to do. I didn't put this as the thing that we need to be doing right now. I didn't do enough work to help the customer. Which CEO do you want to work for? So extreme ownership exists so we can implement the 4 laws of combat and be the best leader that we can. So wrapping up those mindsets, discipline equals freedom. You've got to do it. Do it consistently. Do it over a long time. Have a procedure. Default aggressive. Get after it. Don't be aggressive to people. Aggressively solve the problem. Take the opportunity that's in front of you. Mitigate risk along the way. Innovate and adapt. Don't stay the same. What worked before may not work. Find your triggers for when you're maybe sticking to the old ways and we need some fresh new ideas here. Humility. Don't let the ego overtake you. Ego is the number one killer of teamwork. People are influenced by humble leaders. Finally, extreme ownership. Don't blame others. Don't make excuses. Look for what you can do to help the situation. To wrap it up, this is our framework. The 4 laws of combat: cover and move, simple, prioritize and execute, decentralized command. When I have a leadership struggle, I'm going to start by stepping through that list. What's the quality of our relationships? Have I been simple, clear, and concise enough with my communication? Does the team understand what they need to do? I'm going to step through that list. And if you can step through that list, that's how you improve the skill. The mindsets, they are the tendencies that will stop us implementing the 4 laws. So these are the trigger points. Am I being default aggressive enough? Am I showing enough humility? Are we adapting? So leadership is on you, but it's not about you. Okay? You are the leader, but you're not the star. Your team are the stars. And you are there to support your team. And you're going to take ownership if your team fails. That's on you. Maybe you didn't support them enough. Maybe you didn't give them enough resources. It's on you, but it's not about you. So if you're watching this live or the recording later, maybe now it's a time to go back, review the goals, review the anti-goals, the things you don't want to be. Take 2 minutes. How can the things that you've learned, how can you apply them to your goals? I want to be less of a micromanager. Oh, I've got to have decentralized command. That means I need to be giving more why, more context. No one understands what they should be doing. I need to make sure I'm simple, clear, and concise in my communication. Take 2 minutes now to review your notes and see if there's an application to your goals. Thank you very much for watching. This is the 4 laws of combat, the mindsets of victory. This is the framework for how we teach leadership at Combat Ready. Simple, but not easy. If it was easy, we'd all have great relationships that all have a simple plan. Very hard to implement, but the ideas are not that hard. There is a lot of hidden depth there. Every day I'm working, studying, working with customers, finding new depth to these ideas. I think pretty much everything, all of leadership can be summed up in those 4 laws, but there's a lot of depth to all of them. If you can step through those, work on the relationships, work on communication, work on priorities, work on empowering your team, you will get better at being a leader. My name's Lewis Zezeran. If you want more information, hit me up in the comments. You can write to me, lewis@combatready.ee. If you want more information, go to our website. Thank you very much for your time. See you next time.